Welcome to the Gur in Fangirl podcast, a podcast where we discuss pop culture and fandom. Each episode, we talk with celebrities, fans, and creators about their work in the media that inspires them. Now here's your host, the creator of the Squee project, filmmaker, fangirl, and feminist, Hansi Oppenheimer.
Hey, it's Hansi, and today I'm talking with Susan Hurwitz Arneson. She's co-executive producer and writer on two of my favorite shows, The Tick and Preacher. It was really interesting to hear about what goes on in the writer's room on these two shows, to discuss creating strong women characters, what it's like to work with Ben Edlund, and we even have some tips for ways fans can help save the tick. So here we go.
Sounds good.
Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. I'm sort of chilling right now in between stuff, so it's good to be able to talk to people about the shows and what's going on.
Yeah, I'm sure, because when you're working, that's your life, and there's not a lot of chance to get out there and talk about it.
Exactly.
So I saw that your MFA is in screenwriting, and then you're also co-executive producer, co-producer?
Co-executive producer.
On both Tick and Preacher at this point, or?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Well,
so how?
Yes.
So how is that juggling those two?
It actually, the timing was really good. I finished up on Tick back last August. And around then was approached, my agents came at me with Preacher. And originally, we didn't know what was going to happen with the Tick. And both Preacher and Tick are Sony shows, Sony Studios. So there was some hesitation by Amazon and Sony to let me go do Preacher once I got the job. But finally we sort of pushed, saying, because Amazon, we knew we weren't airing to April, and that sort of the timing could work. So I started on Preacher in September after stopping Tick in August. And now I'm done on Preacher and was hoping to go straight back for season 3 of Tick. The timing would have been great. But then, of course, Amazon decided not to go forward with the show. So it wasn't hard. I know. There's lots of, I see a lot online, and I think it's very difficult for us because, the promotion for the show didn't seem to be out there. I'm seeing a lot of comments on Reddit and Twitter about people who didn't even know we were back for the second season. So, I don't know what the reasons are. I haven't been privy to the conversations, but there is a sense from me, and this is my own personal opinion, that, there was a change in management at Amazon, and we were part of the old pack. So I'm not sure that we were ever where they wanted to see the network go, or if we fit into their vision, or they didn't get us, or I don't know. But it was really disappointing, I especially considering our reviews and how well season 2 turned out. Very disappointing, because it's sort of my dream job.
Show.
Yeah, it was definitely heartbreaking.
And every version of the Tick has been wonderful and different. And I've loved them all. And when I interviewed Ben Edlund at New York Comic Con last year, he's like, "Well, I'm basically a one-trick pony," and which is so not true at all. But I understand, in terms of he has this one obsession with this story, and he's just going to keep finding ways to tell it. I love this version of it.
Yeah, me too. I think you create something so iconic when you're young, and it's like Superman's still around, Batman's still around. You're still telling those stories, and those were created in the 30s. So Ben created this iconic, incredible character in this batshit kind of world. And, of course, as he gets older and he matures as a writer and as a storyteller and as a human being, that character gets filtered through that. And each iteration's been as brilliant as it has, because Ben, who is the Tick and created the Tick, has driven them creatively. He just has a lot to still say with the character. So it just sucks. It sucks
and
pretty much
it's really
across the board.
interesting how like the tick is like sort of like it always seems to be reflective of the times for each version. Like I thought this last version, the 2 seasons were really interesting in terms of talking about what was happening politically. I mean, some of it was like so on the nose, like big stumbling.
No, we were a little ahead of what was happening. Yeah,
you were. You guys nailed it.
Yeah. No, I think it's hard to, I think, any show, but specifically a show where you have a character that's about love, to not reflect what's happening in a world that seems to be filling with so much darkness. You know, it's really hard not to have what you're experiencing as a writer and as a person filter into your world, especially when you're talking about a character who believes in love and justice and being a hero. So he's a bright little sunny blue spot in a kind of a dark place, including where, you know, hero shows and movies seem to have been going, and this dark, grim view of the world. But the tick was sort of, yes, the world can be grim, but we don't have to be grim within it. We can choose love. And so it was definitely a really good time for the show.
I was just rewatching, you might have saw my Twitter, I was just rewatching Blood and Cake, and it's so wonderful and so funny, and I love, you know, when Arthur, you know, when Danger Boat says, "I love you, Arthur," and Arthur's like, "I know you do." And it's this really touching moment that's just ridiculous.
I know, it's
still so meaningful.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's a story behind that episode. I was originally supposed to write the second episode of the season to pair with Ben's first episode of the season, and then my best friend was diagnosed with lung cancer and got extremely sick very fast, and with pneumonia and the flu, didn't even get to really deal with the cancer and passed away. So I had to, thank you. I had to not write that episode because I just wasn't present as much as I was dealing with being in the hospital and sort of the aftermath of her passing. And so when I came back and we started discussing the episode I was now going to write, episode 4, we decided we were sort of wanted to stay on our sets, do something bodily. And of course, like our greatest set to bottle people in is Danger Boat. So it all sort of grew organically from, and so it all sort of grew organically from wanting to do a bottle episode. Ben and I had talked before about a little bit of Danger Boat's backstory, just a bit, you know, why he went rogue. Did he have a partner before Overkill? And sort of all these things came together, excuse me, in such a great way. And then to be able to sort of channel my grief and my feelings about grief and loss through Danger Boat and Arthur, and sort of this organic combining of storytelling and weirdness and my truth. I think it's what we try to do on the Tick. You know, it's real heart with this crazy fucking characters and world, and it came together great. We actually did it at the table read, an early version of it, and it's so crazy to, like, you get really upset, and then you remember, like, this is a gay sentient boat in love with a CPA in a moth suit. And then sort of the crazy of it lightens it, but it doesn't make it feel less real. And I think that's sort of, you know, the power of that episode, but more importantly, the power of the world that Ben created with the Tick, and sort of what we strive to do on the show, which is we want you to feel about these characters, even if, you know, their arms stretch far, or it's a woman who shoots electricity from their fingers. Like there's real emotion and real truth to our characters in this insane Technicolor world.
It's true. There absolutely is. And as goofy as it gets, it's still like you really care about, you know, their arcs, and I love Overkill and Dot's relationship. That's
yeah.
Do you guys have an
great
official
together.
ship name for them?
You know, people have called them Over Dot or Dot Kill. Like we don't have we just, you know, it's just Overkill. And this season I started calling her, and then it sort of got picked up that she was Danger Dot, because that's like she's wearing the black and she's got the darker makeup and like Danger Dot. It's Overkill and Danger Dot, and it just seemed like weird little
That's great.
cartoon combo names. So yeah, they're terrific together, and Val and Scott, who play the characters, have a great chemistry as people too. So I think they have fun being together, and I think it really comes through in the scenes with their characters.
Yeah, I was excited about the season. I had interviewed Valerie and my brain's freezing, but the one who plays Ms. Lynn. So the two ladies were both talking about like how this season because this was in October, so that when this season aired, you'd get to see them really like they'd really have like strong arcs as women, and you definitely did that really with this season.
Yeah, it was really important to Ben, and I was really annoying in the writers' room a lot, especially for. I mean, the thing about Miss Lint is we found her story arc early in the season, and sort of knew what we wanted to do. We originally wanted to bring the terror back for season 2, but our budget was cut by quite a bit for the second season, and we just couldn't. Which story-wise, it just didn't make sense for us, and financially, we just couldn't do Jackie again. And for now, to really pay for him to be a part of the show, we wanted it to be much bigger than what we had room for in this season. But yeah, fighting. So Yara's story, once we figured out we weren't going to have the terror back, she sort of her story, her arc for the season became clear relatively fast. But Dot, we struggled with a bit, and it's finding a place with her with these characters for her to stand on her own became very important to both Ben and I and the rest of the writers' room. So, I was constantly in the writers' room going, yeah, but that's not Dot's story. That's Dot being attached to Arthur's story. But wait, no, that's not Dot's story. That's Dot being attached to somebody else's story. Like, what's Dot's story?
That's so amazing you did that.
Well, she's beyond the fact that she's our female lead. She's number 3 on our call sheet. These are all important things beyond the fact that it's, one of the coolest things about her character for me is, I come from a divorced family, and it's always fascinated to me. Sorry, my brother, for bringing this to the public, but we each reacted very differently to our parents' divorce, right? So I was like, oh, I don't know if I ever want to get married, and my brother's like, I'm going to do it young and I'm going to do it right, So we had different, and that always resonated for Arthur and Dot for me. That two siblings that experienced trauma from their own perspectives, but as a family, like how does that affect them differently? And that was really interesting, I think, to me, to Ben, about the trauma of Dot's always taking care of people because she had to. Now that Arthur can take care of himself and her mom is stepping up more, does that leave Dot with having to take care of Dot? And so what has she been pushing down and not dealing with all these years where she's taking care of other people and not herself? So it was really interesting and fun to explore that side of Dot, that there was trauma, and that was finally rearing its head, and that maybe taking care of everybody, the sort of, being an EMT sort of way, maybe there's other ways to take care of people that would satisfy and answer her trauma.
And just like having her sort of like struggle with, coming into her own power and her own abilities. And, you don't get to see that often with women. And I'm so glad to know that, you fought in the writer's room for a character that, it wasn't, someone's sister, someone's mother, someone's girlfriend. It was Dot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a hard fight. Ben was 100% on board, and it was his goal too that every female character, including Joan, got to shine this season. First season it's hard because it's a buddy comedy at its core. It's Tick and Arthur, and so by the way the pilot was set up, there were certain places we had to go with Tick and Arthur. But second season we were wide open to sort of embrace and fill out these female characters, and it was important from the beginning of the season to Ben to do that. So it was never a hard fight. The hard fight was finding the right answers. Well, no, that doesn't really work. No, maybe that. No. So it was finding the right thing for her was something that felt true to her was the harder part of it.
But I think, as someone who spends a lot of time in fandom culture, I think it's nice for us fans to know that those discussions are being had, because some of the fandoms I participate in have been very frustrated by the way women characters have been treated on shows, and we tweet and we write about it, but we also understand. Some of us understand, some of us don't. You have constraints. It's not always just what the writers want to do.
Right.
And they can't always please the fans. They have other obligations in terms of the characters.
Yeah, for sure. And, the cool thing about Dot is, when you look at the history of the Tick, and I've been a huge fan since the comics, and every other iteration. When you look at the history of Dot, she was sort of like this annoying sister that was just there to take on, Arthur's problems. And in this day and age, we had the opportunity to redefine her and redraw her and recreate her. And that was exciting to sort of take this sort of almost side character who, could be annoying in the cartoon, and really make her somebody that people looked up to. And that was a really, to add to the Tick legacy with that felt pretty great. And, there are things we have to answer, but it helps a lot when your showrunner and the creator of the cartoon is one of the people driving to do that, for sure. But yeah, we definitely have those conversations in the writer's room. Preacher too. What's Tulip's story? What's Jesse's story? What's all of them. Right.
I
it's
love
just as important there that they each have individual ones.
I love what Preacher's done with Tulip. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's and I was as I may have spoken to you when we tweeted back and forth, I was friends with Steve Dillon, and when the comic books came out, and I love both, but I think Tulip is so much better in the show. I love how fleshed out she is, how badass she is.
Yeah. I honestly, I didn't love the comic. I read some of them back in the day when they came out, but when I got the job on Preacher, when we were negotiating for me to actually go to Preacher, I read all of them. And I really and I'd been a fan of the show, so I had seen, at the time, the third season was airing. So I was watching the third season and I was reading the comics, and I was like, man, I do not like this Tulip as much. And the amount of times the poor girl gets drugged or left sleeping it off or whatever while everybody else goes off to do stuff, specifically Jesse, is kind of hilarious.
In the novels or not in the show, right?
Yeah, in the graphic. No, not in the show. But we talk about it. We've talked about it in the writers' room at the show about, let's just jokingly, we could always just drug her and leave her at the motel. We just joking, because that's what, and it was a different time. It was the 90s. It was whatever.
Yeah,
and she was still pretty kick-ass in the comics. But, the version of Tulip that Sam created, is she's pretty exceptional, pretty.
Oh man, from her introduction, where let's do crafts.
Yeah.
She's not only badass driver and assassin, but really kind to kids and fun to hang out with.
Yeah. She's I'm sort of a child with a gun. A little bit on certain levels emotionally.
And I can build a bazooka out of
great.
random household items.
Yeah. The MacGyver thing also is great. She's fantastic. She's fantastic. And that they cast Ruth, who, we both know that in the comics she was this big-boobed, blonde-haired, kind of bimbo-y chick. But to have made the call to cast Ruth, who's brilliant, and brings so much of that combo of hardness and vulnerability that really makes Tulip, I think, sing in the series versus the comics. Really, just a great, amazing choice in casting.
And my favorite in the comic book, too, was always either Cassidy or the Saint of Killers. Those were always my two favorites in the comics. And those, I think, were
great.
Exactly what I imagined them to be. So that, they nailed it on the casting and the writing for that.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
There's been a lot of really interesting women characters on Preacher. I mean, having Betty Buckley there last season was crazy.
Yeah, and Julianne Emery continues to just be outstanding as Featherstone. But yeah, there's definitely been some really strong, great female characters on that show. Really memorable.
So do you have a favorite character on both shows, or whoever you're writing
really
at the moment?
Hard. It varies, you know. I will always have on Tick, like, Dot's going to have a huge special place in my heart. I love that character. I love her. I love who she's become. I love Overkill because all you have to do is write angry. Just whatever you want to say. Just find a really angry way to say it, and there's your Overkill dialogue.
True.
Which is so much fun. And then
of vulnerability peek out in between the anger.
Yeah.
And then he's all embarrassed about it afterwards.
Yeah. No, I'm not really embarrassed because, like, well, kind of, but no. Yeah, he's great. Those are probably my two. Tick is probably he's hard to write for because he's so lyrical in how he speaks, such weirdly, I call it Dickensian in how he speaks. But he's fun too. I have to be honest, it's like, I loved working on Preacher. It was brilliant. I love the show. I'm so proud that I got the chance to be with it. It pushed me in ways as a writer that were painful but great. But Tick is one of the loves of my life, and there's not a part or a character that I don't dig. I love writing for Lint. Really, honestly, just everything about that show brings me joy. And then for Preacher, God, you know, obviously Tulip is a blast to write for. Herr Starr, Hitler.
Sure.
I mean, as a Jewish girl from New Jersey to sort of write for Hitler is a strange thing. This season, you know, you get a little more Jesus. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. And so just to, like, there's these. I found Tick also has this too, but it's a different kind of surreal than Preacher, where suddenly you're writing dialogue for Hitler or for Jesus or God, and you're like, what is happening? Versus Tick, where your moments are like, well, so, you know, when Lobster Hercules and her babies, and then you realize you're talking about a giant lobster and lobster baby. Like, there's just weird. I do a weird thing for a living, and I'm very lucky, but you do have moments where you're like, this is just stupid. This is just so dumb.
I love that they had Lobster Hercules. There were, like, rubber bands on her claws when she was in captivity.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Ben, I don't know if many people know this. Ben is from Massachusetts, but he's from by the cranberry bogs, and he hates seafood. Does not like seafood. and he just came in with this idea of a creature named Lobster Hercules. And then it evolved to, you know, it's a woman and she's being this, and then she has babies, and then, you know, giving Tick and Arthur a chance to parent together and sort of show that bond. That all came
and
from
then bringing
came in one
Joan
day, like,
in to help.
Yeah. Right. Which was so great because we really, like, you know, Joan was somebody we really wanted to fill out. You know, we still have a backstory for Walter we've never been able to tell about why he's obsessed with feet. We have a story for it. I won't ever spill stuff until I'm told I'm allowed. But yeah, Joan was like, who is Joan? And it really gave us a chance to touch on the fact that after her husband was killed, and it's so funny you talk about these things, they're really serious story points, but we turn them. You know, who is Joan after her husband was killed and she was left to raise these two children, her trauma, and how she sort of defaulted as a mom, you know, to, you know, doctors for throw money at the problem, you know, doctors for Arthur and whatever, and then letting her daughter take over and those things. So who is Joan now that she realizes who her son really is, that she did sort of not fully mother them after their father died. So who is she, and how does she not make amends, but how does she fully bring her family back into her fold, right, as a mom and as somebody who wants family. And so giving her a chance to sort of be a grandmother,
right, exactly,
and use those grandkids to heal her relationships with her children, felt really good. It just happens they were lobsters.
Yeah. Well, it totally makes sense in context. But, yeah, it absolutely was like the grandmother coming over and the parents are like, we don't know what to do. The kid's crying. We can't stop it. And the grandmother's like, here, let me show you how this works.
Yep. Right. And through that bond, you're able to talk to your children about your failings as a parent now that they're trying to parent, right? So now that you have this parenting thing in common, maybe you'll both get each other more. And so that definitely, I think, helped us to round out Joan and to bring her into specifically Arthur and Tick into their lives more.
So I have a question about the technical end for you. So
sure.
Both those shows have very, very specific like language and in particularly, Ben Edlund, of course, right? So how hard is that for you to sort of like get into that, or is it just, when you're writing, you're just in that frame of mind and the words come? I mean, is it difficult?
No, they're both incredibly, we found, with the Tick, it was much easier for me, partially because some of the characters we were creating, right? So I was a part of the show from the get-go, from the first season. So, as we formed Dot, as we formed Overkill, as these characters grew, I was part of them. So I sort of, I learned their voices. Tick will always be hard because he's so uniquely Ben. And no matter who writes the Tick, Ben always has to go through the Tick and, put it through his brain and spit the words back out. I mean, you can get really close and he'll keep a ton of what you write, but there's still there's flourishes, there's things that are so specifically Ben, and you want that, you need that. That's one of his many, many gifts. And so, but it's a very difficult show to write for, in that it's such a mixture of heart, funny. It writes like a drama, but it's a half hour, but it's ridiculous. So it's its own unique beast. There's no other show out there like it. Tonally, it sort of walks a crazy line. And the interesting thing is that Preacher does the exact same thing. I mean, they're very different lines, but there's a similarity in terms of a strange tone that mixes action, violence, romance, comedy, all these things that make it incredibly difficult to write for. And so the Tick for me was a little, not easier, but I was able to be there and acclimate as the characters' voices started to be developed. Preacher was very hard for me to come in on the fourth season, even though I'd watched it all and write. It was very intimidating. The level of the writing, just like on the Tick, but the level of the writing is exceptional. So part of it is not only is it a hard show tonally, as a writer, it's intimidating because you don't want to fuck it up.
Right.
So there were two very difficult shows to work for, but I, really in terms of pushing me as a writer, great experiences, both just tremendous experiences. It's changed how I write and who I am as a writer, for sure. Both have. And how I tell stories now. Definitely.
That's amazing. Well, that's how it should be, right? I mean, if you're involved in this creative process, it should, it goes both ways. You create, but it also makes, you who you are, the process. You learn and grow from it. It's really, it's hard to continually be pushed. I get to be on something that's a little more comfortable where I can do my job and it's, I can write this, but to not be pushed, it's terrifying. It's hard, but the benefits are great. To my garbage men, sorry, going by. No, that's okay.
But yeah,
but also to have the opportunity to work on shows that are so unique and so creative. There's nothing else like them.
I
really
can't
amazing.
Go back. I come from sitcoms background. I originally started on South Park for 6 years, so I was already sort of acclimated to creators who were brilliant and intimidating. But 6 years in South Park, which was obviously its own unique thing, and with exceptional writing and storytelling and well-known characters. And then I did some years on some other shows, sitcoms, things like that. And I don't want to go back to that. I want to stay sort of on the trajectory I'm on with Tick and Preacher, to those sort of batshit shows that are difficult to write and care about character and story, all while still being funny and outrageous and dark and weird. That's sort of where I'd like to keep going, if they're out there.
Well, if we could, yeah, and I mean, so I've seen this happen now because there were a couple other shows that I just was madly in love with that got canceled, like Hap and Leonard and Ash versus Evil Dead. And I think, similarly to Preacher and the Tick, they're the kind of stories that the shows are so strange and unique and specific. Mm-hmm. Actually, I mean, I interviewed Bruce Campbell, and he had said, really getting 3 seasons of a show like that is a miracle these days.
Yeah.
But, I hope for more than that. Like, I just...
we need a network that does shows only like that. It's what we need.
That would be awesome.
Because I think I think the shows are there. I think that, I know personally, like, I'm starting to write my own, now that I have a little time to breathe, and because of everything that's going on with the WGA and the ATA and not having my agent to rely on right now, I'm sort of focusing inward on what I want to write. And what I want to write is definitely in the same vein. I want to stay in that, unique storytelling with sort of a weird mix of genre in it. But for me, most of my career I've written on very male-driven shows. Even if there have been female characters, the core of the shows have been male-driven. And as a female writer and nerd, I want those female characters too.
Yes, please.
So that's what I'm developing on my. I know. I think there's a lot of us in the nerd sphere and the female nerd sphere who are like, yeah, no, let's do that. And that's sort of where I, as a creator, am going with my own work now. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, anything I can do to help.
Texting me as I'm talking to you. Thank you. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I should pick your brain at some point.
We'd love to see more weird women stuff because, there's just not enough of, not enough stories told by women or, underrepresented people. Yep. We need more of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like, in a lot of shows, especially within, the geek, nerd, comic book, heart, whatever, any of these things, that there are female characters, but a lot of times they're part of the team. They're not the main character, but often they're some of the most interesting characters, and I'm not, I know that me, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other female creators out there who feel the same way, and I'm sure are working on similar projects, and there's some coming down the pike. But I think as we move forward and we show that, women play video games, women read comic books, women watch horror movies, women like superheroes, like all of these things, that we're driving forces in that marketplace as well.
I can't believe anyone doesn't understand that women like those things. Like, it just seems to me like, I know. I don't understand how you can possibly live in a world and think like, oh, women like Star Wars? Like,
yeah, I know. We're some of the... We're politer, I think, but we're some of the most virulent fans, and we're not afraid to dress up, and we're not afraid to show our fandom and support really, like, strongly the things that we follow and love. And that's worth pursuing. It really is worth pursuing. And I'm not sure why there's not more of it. But I think coming down the pike, if you look at things that are in development or things that, they're coming. It's just hard, especially in the superhero, because it's so saturated. There has to be other ways to tell story. One of the things I love about Preacher, it is a comic book. It's a comic book. He's a superhero, right? It's just not presented in your classic cape and cowl kind of ways. So you're able to do this darkly realistic, weird-ass show, but it's still a superhero. But it doesn't get... like the Tick did, it doesn't get lumped into the glut of superhero stuff. So I think that's a way in for those of us who want to write female heroes or anti-heroes or any of those things, is to find a way to make them quote unquote superheroes, but hide the fact that you're kind of writing a comic book. That's my take. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
No, this isn't, no, I'm not, this isn't a comic book hero. This is just a female hero. It's not that. Yeah. So, we'll see. I hope there's new stuff coming out soon for women outside of the Marvel universe, to be perfectly honest, and outside of the Star Wars universe. I would like to see, you know, I wish DC did a better job of exploiting their universe. You know, Dark Horse, all of those, you know, which is obviously part of DC, but I wish all of those would spend more time really focusing on female characters as leads of shows. You know, I thought the strongest in the Marvel on Netflix was Jessica Jones. So why aren't we doing more of that? You know,
the other three were Jessica Jones and Luke Cage were like the two my two favorites of those.
Yeah. So you know, it proved that you can have this sort of woman with a superpower in a world that's grounded-ish and still tell a remarkable story that men and women would watch. Excuse me.
And I love that also that, you know, she wasn't particularly nice. She's like, she was really difficult. You know? Yeah. I always thought she could use a little more of a sense of humor, but that's just like, that's my voice and my style is I like my characters to be smart alecky and quirky and have a sense of humor. So, I mean, that's one of the things I love about Tulip is she's a bit of a smartass. Totally.
But, so, yeah. So, you know, Miss Lynn has that, too. Like... Yeah. Whatever. You're a dick.
Didn't take any shit from anybody, Yeah.
Exactly. And so I love that. You know, that was the only thing for me with Jessica Jones is like you know, it's that thing with comic books and the darkness of it, which I love. I'm a huge Batman fan. Obviously, I'm Bat dork, but there's a balance between dark and light. I think that is necessary in some shows now, unless you're going pure sunshine and light like we did on the Tick, and that's its own thing.
Yeah, it's completely its own thing. I mean, Ben Edlund is completely his own thing. It's like, I've been a fan of his, you know, writing for, you know, a decade. And, like, every time, you know, he does an episode on, for, you know, when he was doing, like, a Supernatural or Angel or... They're always some of the best, right? And, yeah, they're just brilliant. And you're like, how does he even get there? Like, what goes on in his brain?
He's got a crazy head, man. He's got a crazy head. He's just the way he comes at things is so uniquely him. And, you know, for me, like, when I first got the job, I was sitting in a room and it was just senior staff. It was me, Ben, it was first season, so David Fury, Jose Molina. We were sitting in a room and then Jose and David went down to smoke or whatever. And I just was left in the room with Ben and I had this, like, fangirl, dorky, like, oh my God, I'm sitting in a room with Ben Edlund talking about the Tick. Like, this is just the craziest moment of my life. And, and one of the things about Ben, beyond being just, like, creatively brilliant, is, like, he's also possibly one of the best human beings you'd ever meet. Just, like, a great, caring, warm, just a really good human. And, you know, people that have had the amount of success he had in creating the Tick, so he was 17, you know, that young, and to have had this great career and this big blue thing that'll exist long after we're gone. You know, he's not a dick. Like,
not at all.
He's the greatest, nicest guy, and he's accessible to fans and truly grateful and humble. So I feel pretty lucky to have gotten over to get to work with him. Yeah, he was, you know, like, well, I'm just a one-trick pony. Yeah, he knows he's not, and he knows he's not. But you know what? He loves that pony, man. He loves that pony, and that's why that's why every iteration of the Tick is so great, because it is his heart. Yeah. And it, you know, and I think it's reflected. I think it's very much reflected, especially in the second season, how much love there is for that world and those characters.
Yeah, because in the second season, everyone starts to be like, okay, this is who I am now. And everyone sort of accepts, you know, there's a moment where they're like, and then, you know, their family, their partner, their friends accept, like, okay, you know, like when Arthur's like, I'm in, and the Tick is like, yay, and then Dot's in, and there's a moment where it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, well, we heard feedback from fans last season, and it was hard. Part of the setup of the season was Arthur's sort of, classic hero's journey, refusing the call. And, that had been set up in the pilot, and you couldn't move him too fast to being, okay, like everything I've always thought my entire life. Yeah, okay, I expect, like we couldn't do that. So it's sort of, we really wanted to start this season with Arthur fully on board. Like, we know fans wanted that. We really wanted that in terms of story. We didn't want to be held back by that. We wanted classic Tick and Arthur going on patrol and what weirdness happens in the city. We wanted our characters. We knew them now, too. So we really wanted a season of them coming into their own and facing much more classic Tick villains and problems.
So is there anything fans can do to help try to get the Tick to another network, or is that even on the table, or is that a possibility?
It is on the table.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's absolutely a possibility. I know, Sony is our studio, and Sony has the rights to the Tick. They've been a great partner for the show. And I know that we have been submitted to multiple other networks. I don't know the status of anything. Okay. I know we've been submitted, that Sony's doing whatever they can to make it feel, we're unfortunately, for a half hour of television, we're sort of an expensive little show, which is, if we were just your sort of standard multicam, half-hour comedy, it's a different thing. But we are, because of the VFX in the show, we are slightly pricier than the average half hour. So it's going to be harder, I think, for us to find a home. Sony's obviously working to make it as palatable and interesting to a new partner. So I don't know. I know we went out. I don't know the status of anything. The fans being vocal with the hashtag Save the Tick over social media, the petition on change.org. I mean, all these things, at least, for somebody who's a potential buyer who's looking to see if there's a fan base and an interest in more of the show, these are things that they can, at their desk, start looking up. I mean, if you search hashtag Save the Tick on Twitter, you can see, everybody who really is very adamant. Same on Reddit, same on, Instagram, and every place I don't go because I'm old, like 4chan, which I don't really get what that is, but I'm going to say it because somebody else said it. Yeah. And I think that's what it's called. But really, all we can do is be a vocal fandom, and hope that if somebody's interested, that fans being vocal and showing their support and saying that they'll continue to watch and support the show. I think that's really all we can do right now, as the powers that be try to broker something and see what happens. Our actors' contracts do run out in June. So we definitely have a ticking clock in terms of, a timetable, but, we still have time. So, it's after the holiday, and, all of Hollywood is gone last week, pretty much. Sure. There's a 3-day weekend. I'm just going to take the whole week. But now that everybody's back, I don't know, things could happen, but, it's with any of these cases, it's always, expect the worst and hope for the best. I think all of us that are involved in the show are very hopeful we can get more, but are also, having to come to the reality that we have to start, looking for, okay, well, if it doesn't happen, where are we going next? What are we doing next?
Right.
Which is sad.
Right. Because it's never about how great the show is. It doesn't, it's not, those decisions are not made based on that. No, okay. I wish they were, because we'd have been picked up by every single network. But it's definitely there's definitely a huge financial element, and a huge who do we fit, and who wants to take the risk, and so there's obviously a series of things that make people decide whether they're going to do it or not. I'm going to commit to at least doing the hashtag twice a day on all my social media, and I will encourage other fans.
Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you. So thanks. Yeah, I think it does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it was a silent fandom,
if they're looking at
then
numbers,
nobody's going to be interested.
We can do that.
Yeah,
and to let people know it's a timeline too.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. So I think we just have to keep doing what we're doing. I think Griffin and I and, Josh, who plays Frank, have been very active in trying to keep it going and out there. And our fans have been absolutely just tremendous. So the support and the love has been really great. So whether the tick lives or dies, this version of it after this, I feel like we've put something out there that, just brought people a lot of joy. So whatever happens, I take a lot of pride and personal happiness in knowing that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you can do with your creative processes. You may do it the best you can, and then it goes out there and it kind of lives its own life. You can't really control, it at a certain point.
No.
So, much as you'd like to.
But
I'm
boy.
sad about
Boy, do I want to
too,
control
that
things.
they're deciding to,
I know. Yeah, well, that was much more organic than the tick. So that's like, it's sad as a fan, but, I was really impressed because I went into the writer's room, and it's a new writer's room, so that's always weird and intimidating. You're not quite sure what you're stepping into, and the discussion was coming from Sam, the creator and showrunner, about what story do we have to tell? What do we feel we want to still do from the comics? What do we feel the fans are going to want to still see from the comics? And we have this 10-episode season. What else do we need? Do we need 2 seasons? Do we need how much story do we have? And then ultimately, we looked at everything, and it became pretty clear that we could do this pretty successfully in one season, and that to drag it out just felt wrong. And so,
right.
It wasn't network or studio that ultimately said, this should be when Preacher ends. It came from the creator, and I think that's such a great way to go out, because you get to go out on your terms, and you also get to know you're going out, so you get to write towards that.
Right. Nothing worse than just getting, suddenly finding out, like Stand Against Evil.
Yep. Like
leave it on cliffhanger, and then they get canceled, and the fans are just like, no, but wait.
I know. I mean, everybody, the amount of people people are like, I've seen saying, so if you guys don't come back, will somebody tell us what's happening with Superior? And but I will tell you a secret story that I promised people I would tell that I've told nowhere else, about Bronze Star. So here's a little secret just for your podcast. So Bronze Star, people are like, what are his powers? What is going on? Why is Bronze Star? So Bronze Star appears first in my script in Blood and Cake, and I put him in because I had to have we needed to introduce another superhero. So I found the name that wasn't taken. I sort of liked the idea that it was like here in California, you have them everywhere at every tourist place. Those guys, the human statues who are painted silver or gold or bronze or whatever.
Well.
And so I was like, I want him to be that, and I'm going to call him Bronze Star. And I put him in and always thought he was temporary. We'll take him out. And we just never got around to taking him out and replacing him. And then we were casting him, and then we were putting him in. And then, we fell in love with the character just because he just became this guy who was like, everybody knows him. He's just like a good guy, And when my other episode in 9, when we were like, we're forming the new Flag 5, we put him in, and Amazon and Sony said, they might get mad at me for telling people this, but what can they do now? They were like, no, I don't think we want Bronze Star in the Flag 5. And we're like, what? They're like, no, he just doesn't seem like he would be in the Flag 5. And Ben and I were like, oh, you know what? He's so going in the Flag 5. And we just were like, this character that was like supposed to go away and be replaced by like a real character, now is suddenly one that we love and that we're fighting for to be part of a superhero team. So Bronze Star is this crazy, weird dude who exists against the odds, but now lives forever in the Tick universe. That's my crazy Bronze Star story.
Ben Edlund too, like yeah, he's definitely going in now.
Yeah, we were both like, we both dug in our heels. We're like, why would they say that about Bronze Star? He's such a nice guy. Like, and our actor is great, and the makeup and the costume was so much fun, and it wasn't like an expensive superhero thing. It was just like, he's got the bronze outfit on. Like, guys do it down at the promenade here in Santa Monica.
Square or,
Yeah, I mean, if like Lando street performers can do that, if they can afford to do that, we can certainly afford to do that. And so then we like fell so much in love with him that we got offended and like dug in our heels. We're like, no, he's going in the flag 5. Just the weird things that you get attached to. So there's Bronze Star. But I can't talk about his powers. Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, you think you've given me like more than I need, but I'm going to try to put everything in because it's been an amazing conversation.
Whatever. I'm just happy to have the conversation. Thank you for letting me blah blah. I clearly like to blah blah. So, but no, it was great. Thank you so much for
stories.
We do, but most of us don't like to talk as much as some of us do. So, but yeah, no, it's been great, and I'm so passionate about. I mean, I loved Preacher, but of course, but Tick is so personal to me, and my love of it and of Ben, that anything I can do to talk about how great an experience it was and to possibly save it, I'm going to do.
Yeah,
so I appreciate you giving me a platform to do that.
Yeah, we'll all, I mean, I know Orlando Jones is on board too, and if Trolando can't like get the word out, nobody can.
Yeah, if he wants to tweet about us, I would be so incredibly grateful. Yeah, any name that has a lot of followers is always great.
I know he's a big overdot shipper.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, we could use all help from all quarters.
Yeah, the more of us. Yeah. All right. So, Fangirl Army to the rescue. We'll organize.
Awesome.
And
appreciate it. It was awesome to talk to you.
You too, and like, please, like, whenever you're, if you're coming up with, a new project and you're working on something, please, shoot me a tweet or something and let me know, and I'd hop back and we could talk about whatever you're working on, and.
I love that. I love that.
I'd love to talk to more women in the industry and find out, and it's so nice that you're fighting for women in the writers' room and behind the scenes. I mean, that's so important, and yay you.
Yeah, yay! I'm just grateful I have the opportunity to do it. To be perfectly honest, there's a lot of people who want to do this for a living, and a lot of women who want to do it. So I'm just grateful that I've had the opportunity to do it. So, yay!
And
yay. Ladies in the writers' room.
And pass it down the line, so it would be a little easier for the next person. So
I hope so. I think it's getting there. But I hope it's going to continue in that direction. Yeah,
I think so. I think we're at a turning point, with all the crazy stuff that's going on. I think women are going to start instead of fighting each other, fighting the patriarchy, and if we all came up for that,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
With our allies, we're a formidable army.
Yep. As Ben Edlund and the Tick say, choose love.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Grr in Fangirl. If you enjoyed our show, be sure to visit our website, www.squeeprojects.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast and our YouTube channel for lots more Squee as fuck pop culture content.